Feels like things are back to normal. It's seeing you with your camera.
Got it. Hold on. There we go. Ah, thank you. I appreciate you so much.
American flag, though. American flag.
Eyes right. You.
Watch yourself. Watch yourself. Left. 1961. Right. Left. You getting it all.
Mark time. Mark. Attention! Forward! Forward! Eyes left!
Forward. Forward.
Eyes
Left.
Left, right. Color guard. Pull. Color guard. Eyes. Left.
Keep marching.
Yep. Keep going.
Color guard. Go forward. March. Left.
Forward. March. Left. Left. Eyes. Up.
Hey, there he is. How are you?
Sheriff, how you been?
Give you service.
Eyes. Left.
Look left foot. Look left foot.
Just your head. Just your head. Put your arm.
Eyes. Left.
Only will be you here too.
Tired. Love you.
My name is Robert C. Bromley. I'm chairman of the City of New Bedford Veterans Advisory Board. Today, the city marks the 154th annual observance of Memorial Day, during a time which our nation is still climbing out of a global pandemic and economic crisis. And although our parade and numerous services across the city have either been derailed or diminished over this time, the city and its veterans did not veer from honoring our men and women of the city who gave their ultimate sacrifice for this nation or have since passed on into history. Memorial Day was first declared in 1868 to honor the soldiers, sailors, and Marines who fell in battle or succumbed to disease during the Civil War. Tradition established that this day be observed by a memorial service and to adorn the veterans' graves with spring flowers and the nation's flag. Today we honor all of our nation's fallen veterans, men and women, who did not fail our nation or its future generations. So let us never fail to remember them. At this time, I'd like to introduce Father Michael Racine, pastor of Holy Name of Sacred Heart of Jesus and St. Lawrence parishes in Bedford, for our Memorial Day prayer.
I gotta throw in St. Francis too. I got three. It's good for us to be here on this very beautiful day. God, our Heavenly Father, you have blessed us with brave men and women, always willing to defend our freedom. Surround them with your protection and grace each day. Let your healing hand be upon those who suffer the wounds and injuries of war. On this Memorial Day, we recall those who have made the ultimate sacrifice, that they will rest forever in your holy presence. Comfort their families who still mourn, and those who are left behind, to remember the precious lives of their loved ones. On this Memorial Day, we place the symbol of our country, the flag, by their graves, as a sign of remembrance. Let us always be mindful of what that flag represents, the loving sacrifice made on behalf of our American soldiers, our sons, our daughters, our husbands, our wives, our mothers and our fathers, our families and our friends, our heroes. Grant them now eternal rest in your loving care. And finally, we ask that gift of peace to come into our communities, our nation, and our world. Amen.
Thank you, Father Racine. At this time, I call forward the City Council President, Ian Abreu, for the Pledge of Allegiance. We will be using the flag at the top of the Common at the Korean War Memorial.
Good afternoon. If you'd all please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. I now call forward Miss New Bedford, Megan Sylvia, for the rendition of the national anthem.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you, Megan. I now call forward Christopher Gomes, the City of New Bedford's Veteran Service Officer, Veterans Agent, for the reading of General Logan's orders.
General John A. Logan's Memorial Day Order. General Order Number 11. Headquarters, Grand Army of the Republic, Washington, D.C., May 5th, 1868. The 30th day of May, 1868, is designated for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion, and to whose bodies now lie in every city, village, and hamlet churchyard in the land. In this observance, no form or ceremony is prescribed, but post and comrades will in their own way arrange such fitting services and testimonials of respect as circumstances may permit. We are organized, comrades, as our regulations tell us, for the purpose, among other things, of preserving and strengthening those kind and fraternal feelings which have bound together the soldiers, sailors, and Marines who united to suppress the late rebellion. What can aid more to assure this result than by cherishing tenderly the memory of our heroic dead, who made their breasts a barricade between our country and its foes. Their soldier lives were the reveille of freedom to a race in chains, in their death a tattoo of rebellious tyranny in arms. We should guard their graves with sacred diligence. All that the consecrated wealth and taste of the nation can add to their adornment and security is but a fitting tribute to the memory of her slain defenders. Let no wanton foot tread rudely on such hallowed grounds. Let pleasant paths invite the coming and going of reverent visitors and fond mourners. Let no vandalism of avarice or neglect, no ravages of time, testify to the present or to the coming generations that we have forgotten as a people the cost of a free and undivided republic. If other eyes grow dull and other hands slack and other hearts cold in the solemn trust, ours shall keep it well as long as the light and warmth of life remains in us. Let us then, at the time appointed, gather around their sacred remains and garland their passionless mounds above them with the choicest flowers of springtime. Let us raise above them the dear old flag they saved from dishonor. Let us in this solemn presence renew our pledges to aid and assist those whom they have left among us as sacred charges upon the nation's gratitude, the soldiers and sailors, widow and orphan. It is the purpose of the Commander-in-Chief to inaugurate this observance with the hope it will be kept from year to year, while a survivor of the war remains to honor the memory of his departed comrades. He earnestly desires the public press to call attention to this order and lend its friendly aid in bringing it to the notice of the comrades in all parts of the country in time for simultaneous compliance therewith. Department commanders will use every effort to make this order effective. By command of John A. Logan, Commander-in-Chief.
All right, good job.
Thank you, Chris. At this time, I'd like to give a recognition to our city councilors, city school committee, our state delegation, our county sheriff, and our county DA for their participation today. In addition to them, we also like to give a shout out to any of our Gold Star family members who are present with us today. Our speaker today is Lieutenant Colonel Gary Correa, United States Marine Corps, and is also the commander of the Cape Verdean Veterans Association here in the city. Colonel Correa.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Mayor Mitchell, Chris Gomes, Mr. Bromley, and everyone, the citizens of New Bedford gathered here today. The birth of Memorial Day, born out of the fire and ash of the Civil War, have been thoroughly recounted today. I'm going to touch on three things: my personal reflections about Memorial Day, the subsequent global impact of the Civil War, and the city of New Bedford. On 4 July 1866, the city of New Bedford erected the memorial you see behind me. It is dedicated to the soldiers and sailors from New Bedford who served. How many times have you walked past it? Have you ever stopped to read it and read the inscription? Well, this is what it says. Erected by the city of New Bedford as a tribute of gratitude to her sons who fell, defending their country in the struggle with slavery and treason. That's a very strong statement. Today is the time to remember and honor the service, fidelity, and sacrifices of the men and women of the United States Armed Forces who have followed in their footsteps. As the first line of the Marine Corps hymn goes, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. However, we must also remember that on the home front, families make sacrifices as well. Rob Crowley, a writer for the Standard Times, wrote an article on my mother at the start of Desert Storm. The article was titled, and I quote, "On the home front, mothers wait, worry." I think that is a good summation of what all families endure during those trying times. Tragically, Mr. Crowley was killed in a car crash on Route 140 several years later. Memorial Day has a twofold meaning to me. The first are my personal reflections of the Marine Corps and Navy aviators that I trained and deployed with across the United States. The first fighter I flew was the F-4 Phantom II. It was a tandem-seat supersonic twin-engine with afterburner fighter attack jet. It was a workhorse in Vietnam. I then transitioned to the F-18 Hornet, a single-seat twin-engine afterburning supersonic strike fighter. After training, I was assigned to my new squadron, VMFA 314, nicknamed the Black Knights. There are only about 16 or 18 aviators in the squadron, and you form close bonds. We flew complex, demanding, and challenging missions together around the globe. We deployed to the Republic of Turkey in the Black Sea region in support of NATO contingency operations directed against the Soviet Union. More on that later. Across the Pacific to Japan and the Far East, and then on to the Middle East for Desert Shield and Desert Storm. Along the way through the years, you get reports of mishaps. The Atlantic, the Pacific, midair in the Persian Gulf, Alaska, Virginia, South Carolina, shot down in Lebanon, shot down in Iraq, and it goes on and on. There can be a high price to pay if you want to be a fighter pilot. And I quote, "A man's skill is his life, and his life is his skill." Over time, the toll added up. The cost of not just aircraft, but the aviators. The men and women who flew come to mind on this day. Their call signs are Red Eye, CB, JP, Dukes, Jaws, Slim, Tricker Pyro, Revlon, the first Navy woman fighter pilot, and many more. Also, I recall Corporal Patello, who died on patrol in Mogadishu, Somalia. This is what I reflect on at a personal level for me. We knew each other's families, kids, we partied, we drank beer, and a little more beer, attended functions, both formal and informal. And those times and memories are what moved me. We were all in our 20s and 30s, hard charging and highly motivated. Their loss is immeasurable. Those are my personal reflections. Lastly, on my personal reflections, I'd like to give praise to the World War II veteran generation, particularly the Cape Verdean vets who returned home after years away from home. They founded the Veterans Association. They were unbelievable role models. To me, they coached basketball, baseball, football, marching band, and a host of other things. You are remembered. The bigger picture on the importance of the Civil War, which ended 17 years ago, were embodied in Abraham Lincoln's closing remarks at the Gettysburg Address. This nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom. I believe it is the most pivotal event in world history in the last 157 years. That new birth was, instead of being a divided state, we truly became the United States. It set us on the path of becoming the great nation we are today. Now, how did that all unfold? In 1898, we engaged in the Spanish-American War. That ended the last major European influence in the Americas. Also, by treaty, we gained control of the Philippines, which marked the beginning of the United States as a world power and established a strong presence in the Western Pacific. That would be crucial 40 years later during World War II. In 1917, the United States entered World War I on the side of the Allies, tipping the balance. Most autocratic monarchies fell and were replaced by several democratic nations. However, several fascist dictatorships also came about, most notably Germany, which was the genesis of World War II. Also, let's not forget that Imperial Japan would start its rise in the Pacific. President Roosevelt's Arsenal of Democracy broadcast in December 1940 set us on the path that led to World War II and ultimate victory in the most devastating event in world history. Democratic governments do not stop wars of conquest and aggression. They seek peace and prosperity, not war and misery. Dictatorships and authoritarian governments to prop up their failing regimes often turn to war as a means of deflecting attention away from their poor leadership, policy and leadership. We are now at another crucial pivot point in history. The United States and its NATO allies are once again called upon to be the arsenal of democracy for the Ukraine in their war with Russia. They embody and espouse the spirit of freedom, democracy, and pride that we do. I know they won't lose, but they will have a hard time winning. They need our unflinching support to prevail. Ukraine just observed their Memorial Day on May 11th. The next thing I say will probably come as a surprise to you, but the United States and the Soviet Union/Russia have crossed paths on the battlefield. Those encounters were kept secret to downplay any possible escalation. During the Korean and Vietnam War, Soviet-Russian fighter pilots fought many dogfights against Navy and Air Force pilots. They did not fare very well, I might add. I'd like to close by saying that the City of New Bedford does an excellent job of preserving and recognizing and recognition of its sons and daughters who have served in the armed forces. There are memorial reminders throughout the city. I encourage everyone to take the time to stop and check them out. If you have a young child or grandchild, the Lance Corporal Matthew R. Roderick's United States Marine Corps Playground, located at New Bedford Airport, is a great place to play while watching the planes take off and land. Lastly, the Cape Verdean American Veterans Association is hosting a reception at 561 Pershing Street. All are invited. Thank you for your time. Semper Fidelis, and God bless.
Thank you, Colonel. I now call forward Mayor Jon F. Mitchell for the annual Mayoral Memorial Day address. So thank you, Bob. It's hard to follow my friend Gary Correa, but I would just ask everybody to join me in another round of applause for Gary Correa, combat veteran of Operation Desert Storm, Marine fighter pilot, and member of the city's airport commission too. Gary, don't forget that. No, thank you, Gary. Thank you for your terrific remarks. I want to really begin and end today with words of thanks. So it's been 3 years, as we all know, since we were able to do this event, all the Memorial Day events as we have today, and it is so uplifting to see so many people come on out. This is the day when I'm so proud to be humbly the mayor of this city, a city that cares about its veterans and is deeply patriotic and that shows up. And I emphasize, especially to the kids out there, who show up. They show up, and deeds speak louder than words. No matter what we say here, it's the act of showing up, as veterans have profoundly done, and showing up for our country. That's what matters most. I want to thank and on the matter of showing up, our city departments that work to put all this together work extremely hard. The Department of Public Infrastructure spends an awful lot of time not just putting together podiums and speaking systems, but attending to graves at cemeteries all throughout the city. They work extremely hard to make things look just so, and just so is what our veterans and those that and their family members deserve. I want to thank them. I want to thank the two men over my left and right shoulders, Bob Bromley and Chris Gomes, who really lead the charge and go, and I see it, I get to witness it, just how they go the extra mile year after year after year to ensure that this parade goes as planned, but that Memorial Day goes as planned, that they are so committed to the tradition that has been long set down in New Bedford of honoring veterans with great reverence. And I want to thank both of them for all of their hard work, not just for Memorial Day, but year-round. And again, I also want to thank the Veterans Advisory Board. My good friend Bruce Stewart Sr. is right behind me. All of you guys shepherd the work of serving our veterans all year round, and you guys do such a great job. So thank you, Bruce, and thank you to all the members of the VAB. So again, my word really today, and I have far be it for me to add to anything that Colonel Correa said. I do want to say this. I just really want to express my gratitude for everyone who came out, for everybody who showed up. We live right now in a very divided country. It's great to be emerging from the pandemic, and we've worked very hard. Everybody has to make things happen, to step forward, and New Bedford's doing a great job at that. But we all have to be, as Americans, united with one another. And we heard moments ago Chris reciting Logan's orders, which is so beautifully expressed. It really was the official proclamation of Memorial Day back in the late 1860s. And one of the things that really leaps out at me is that what veterans are dedicated to, what those who served were dedicated to, was the preservation, and the words of that order were a free and undivided republic. A free and undivided republic. That is what they gave their lives. So many of them gave their lives and livelihoods for, and that is what we here, the living, need to continue to be dedicated to. So whether you are a Democrat, a Republican, or something else, it doesn't matter. We are Americans first, and we can all agree on certain things. We can agree that showing up on Memorial Day to salute our veterans is important. We can all agree on that. We can all agree that our freedoms that so many in our country take for granted were made possible by those sacrifices, and continued sacrifices by those who serve in America's armed forces. And we can all agree that America is a place like none other, a place that is dedicated to the proposition that everybody has a shot. Everybody has a shot in this world, no matter what your background is. And we can all agree on that. And as a nation, we will serve all ourselves well. In very trying times, we focus on just those handful of things as so lovingly expressed on Memorial Day. And that's, if there's anything that Memorial Day means, it's that. There are things beyond ourselves that we can all agree on and all have to dedicate ourselves to. I thank you for appearing today. I hope you enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. Thank you, Mayor Mitchell. At this time, I call forward again Christopher Gomes, the City of New Bedford Veterans Agent, for the reading of the roll. This begins our memorial service today. These are the veterans from the City of New Bedford who have passed on since last Memorial Day.
'22 New Bedford Veteran Honor Roll. Jacinto Amorin, Army. Martin Andrade, Army. Joseph Barreo, Army. Roger Barrows, Army. Stephen Bennett, Navy. Robert Birch, Navy. Walter Babola, Navy. Paul Bosvert, Army. Stephen Brown, Army. Robert Bergen, Air Force. John Cavallo, Navy. Robert Sharon, Coast Guard. Roger Roger Chabelet, Navy. John Christie, Navy. Sherman Cobb Jr., Air Force. Stephen Cobb, Army. Richard Cormier, Army. Anton Costa, Army. Henry Costa, Navy. Edward Davey Jr., Navy. Raymond D. Carvalho, Marine Corps. Raymond Doyen, Navy. Wayne Eccleston, Coast Guard. James Farney, Navy. Gloria Bartow, Army, Air Force. Frank Ferreira, Jr., Army. Charles Follett, Marine Corps. Dale Fuller, Coast Guard. Roland Jenring, Marine Corps. John Gilmet, Marine Corps. Ronald Gopiel, Army. Matthew Gomes, Navy. Albert Govier, Army. Winfred Hathaway, Army. Stephen Hebert, Navy. Harris Horvitz, Army. Raymond Lagasse, Navy. Timothy Lagasse, Army. Conrad LaValle, Army. Thomas Lieber, Air Force. Joseph LeBlanc, Army. George Lima, Army. Arthur Luganis, Army. Thomas Machado, Army. Mary Manwaring, Navy. Fernando Marks, Army. Mark McCabe, Marine Corps. Cyber McCabe, Air Force. William McMullen, Marine Corps. Daniel Medeiros, Army. Lisa Ann Medeiros, Army. Norman Medeiros, Air Force. Nelson Madonka, Army. Donald O'Brien, Coast Guard. Edgar O'Neill Jr., Marine Corps. Norman Ouellette, Army. Joseph Paiva Sr., Air Force. Richard Paradise, Army. Robert Peckham, Army. Domingos Pyers, Army. David Punt, Army. Terrence Kirk, Army. George Ramus, Air Force. Phyllis Randall, Army. George Rule Jr., Air Force. Herbert Rowe, Navy. Harold Ryan, Air Force. Paul Santos, Army. James Smith Sr., Air Force. Jose Soares, Marine Corps. Antonio Souza, Army. Carlos Souza, Army. Edward Sullivan, Air Force. Renee Supernaut, Air Force. Stephen Sylvia, Army. Alan Sweet, Navy. Dana Tabor, Army. Paul Talbot, Air Force. Richard Tavares, Army. Robert Vitor, Army. Carlos Vieira, Air Force. Milton Vieira Jr., Army. Anthony Bulow III, Army. Ronald Webb, Marine Corps. The city of New Bedford lost 84 veterans from last Memorial Day to this Memorial Day. We thank them for their service, and we will keep them in our prayers.
At this time, we will be having the placement of the wreath, the laying of flowers. If everyone has a flower, we have some carnations up here if you had a veteran that died this past year. And after that, we'll be having the sounding of taps by Mechanic Calvin. Attention. This concludes our 2022 154th observance of Memorial Day. At its closing, we'd like to invite anyone who would like to participate with us to the placement of the wreath at the Korean War Memorial at the top of the Common. Thank you, and have a good day. For many years, the tradition was after the city service, the members of the Korean War Veterans Associations throughout the city would come and do a small brief ceremony and dedication at this memorial. Although we have a few of those veterans still with us today, many of them now are at the age that cannot get out and participate with us. So because they're still around, they're still with us, we still want to honor them. And at this time, I would like to have Mayor Mitchell and Colonel Career place the wreath at this memorial.
Bob, thank you. Before we place the wreath, Colonel, I wanted to just make mention of one particular Korean veteran that I think probably just about everybody here knew, and that was Roland Gendron. A lot of people knew him as Mac, and he was just a really remarkable guy. He grew up in the city. He enlisted even before high school was done in the Marine Corps, and he served almost immediately after boot camp at the Chosin Reservoir. So those of you who are in the Marine Corps and those who just know the history of that war, know what a horrific place that was. The Chosin Reservoir was on the Chinese side of the line, straddled North Korea to China, and it was one of the biggest battles in U.S. history. Second most, as I understand it, second most number of medals of honor issued as a result of that battle after Iwo Jima. And he was there, sub-zero temperatures for months, and fought his way through and came back home. Just a remarkable experience. And then he came back home, was on the fire department for a number of years, and it was the state director of Veterans Affairs as well. Just a really accomplished life, just an all-around great guy, and somebody worthy of our honoring today. So we lay the wreath, think about Roland, think about all the other Korean War veterans.
Past Commander of the Department of Veterans Affairs.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. All right, you ready? Thank you, everyone. This concludes the Bedford Memorial Day services for this year. Thank you.